This is Investment Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Daily live streaming interactive. Featuring Mrs. Backup. Subscribe, hit the notification, smash the likes. Now, here's Backup Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to Investment Perspectives, everybody. Today we're going to talk about quite a few things that came in. One will be information and an article on the FATF, which is a regulatory body for cryptocurrency from the G20. We're also going to talk about the CBDC effort from France, and that is being reported on and acknowledged by Christopher Giancarlo, who has the alliance put together to work on the digital dollar. We're going to talk about that and some other things from the Reuters press. And Steve Mnuchin, big day here. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Okay, the FATF, the Intergovernmental Standards Group, published its assessment of the U.S. compliance with its banking rules, evaluating laws, regulations around digital assets and other areas on Tuesday. That's not to say the U.S. is completely in line with the current new technology standards known by FATF as Recommendation 15, though. The most powerful member of the FATF's Global Financial Crimes Network retained minor deficiencies. For example, U.S. registered money services businesses need only keep detailed records for transactions of $3,000 or more. That's 3 times higher than the FATF's required due diligence trigger and could, in Watchdog's view, let bad actors slip through. The higher threshold is not clearly supported by low MLTF risk, FATF wrote. U.S. regulators also lag in their investigation of convertible virtual currency CVC businesses. According to FATF, their strategy does not specifically identify the higher risk virtual asset service provider known as VASP, making their various examinations of high volume exchanges and peer-to-peer networks insufficient. Therefore, it is not entirely clear whether the current approach is sufficient risk focused, especially since only 30% of all registered CVC providers have been inspected since 2014, FATF wrote. Legislative gaps could also allow extremely niche VASP activity to evade detection and enforcement. A U.S. registered VASP that only did businesses with non-U.S. persons would not apparently be subject to current law. FATF nevertheless praised U.S. regulators' recent efforts in the virtual asset space, especially the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network for CVC activity. FATF found that the U.S. remains largely compliant with Recommendation 15. Okay, so there's not everything has been met to order here is what they're pointing out. But overall, the FATF says that the U.S. has really done a great job with their efforts to get this space legitimized and getting with the program and the framework of the international regulations and guidelines that have been put out by them and endorsed by the U.S. Treasury and Steve Mnuchin. Interestingly enough, we're going to hear from him in just a second. France's central bank begins experimenting with digital euros. Now, this is an interesting quick spot here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to just give you the quick takes. Is the Central Bank of France has launched an experimental program to test integration of digital euro and settlement procedures. The central bank wants to identify the benefits of CBDC and analyze the effects on CBDC on financial stability and monetary policy. Rightfully so. We come down here, and there's actually some points that they want to make here. Payments by to that end, the central bank is calling for applications. Applicants must be established in European Union or in a state party to the European Economic Area Agreement, and their applications must include a proposal for experiment covering at least one of these 3 use cases. Payments by means of token representing central bank money against 1. Delivery of a listed or unlisted financial instrument. 2. Against a digital currency or another central bank. And 3. Against digital assets as defined by Article L54-10-12 or -12 degrees of the French Monetary Financial Code. So you can see that there is the criteria laid out here for them to begin experimenting with how this is going to affect them on an economic level and them on a monetary level. So this gets exciting. This was reported, by the way, by Christopher Giancarlo, who has an alliance right now working on putting together the digital dollar for the United States. Okay, coming to Reuters reports here. This is pretty interesting as well. The Newswire citing 5 people with direct knowledge of industry discussions. This is about how to get the money to people who are shut down right now through small business loans. And this is an interesting little comment here from Forex Live and Reuters report. So, main concern is that the Treasury Department has said it expects lenders to verify borrower eligibility and take steps to prevent fraud, money laundering, and protect customer information under Bank Secrecy Act. Sources said banks are worried they could face regulatory penalties or legal costs down the line if things go awry in this haste to get money out the door, or get blamed for not moving funds fast enough if they perform due diligence the way they would in ordinary times, the sources said. After hearing the concerns, Treasury officials are considering withdrawing guidance that instructed lenders verify borrowers had the specific number of employees on their books and that their other costs are legitimate, according to 2 sources. Reuters could not learn which specific banks are thinking about boycotting the program. Now, this takes us to the next thing, okay, because this is pretty interesting. We're going to scroll down through quite a bit of stuff here, but here we go. Okay, this clip right here, listen to this clip right here, because the reality is Steve Mnuchin said that he has the authority to write the regulations to deal with this issue.
How quickly are we going to get this in the hands of workers, small businesses, big businesses? How quickly can you do it?
Really fast, Sean, because having money 3 or 4 months from now doesn't do anybody any good. So I can tell you we're going to operate at lightning speed. Although we're using the SBA, this is a new program. This isn't the typical SBA program. I have the authority to write regulations where any FDIC-insured bank, you're going to be able to go in. Literally, I hope to have this by next Friday. You show them your payroll, you get the money instantaneously. Our focus was delivering money quickly to the American public.
And there you have it right there. So this is interesting when he says, I have the authority to write the regulations. Wow. So I guess underneath this national emergency during this stimulus, Steve Mnuchin can make these kind of massive impacts on getting this money out to people. And I could truly see how this could become a very, very backlogged situation. I'm already experiencing some of that feeling now from some of the things I personally have to go through when it comes to getting the money and reaching out to the right regulatory or government agency. And it is nothing but busy phone lines and unanswered emails at this point. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf for the information earlier, and shout out to XRP 589. And I Am Legion has a great article here on moats and flywheels. The concept of moats and flywheels was heralded by Warren Buffett to describe a sustained competitive advantage. You should check out that article on my profile. This is another throwback here of a nice illustration. Thank you to Crypto Eddie from back in September of last year, of a nice diagram of all the areas of industry and things that are involved when it comes to the digital asset ecosystem approaching completion. Now, here's something I want to finish with really quickly here. Dan Pena points out oil at 23 per barrel. ExxonMobil and Chevron said they would cut their budgets. Goldman Sachs estimates Chevron needs $50 a barrel in order to cover spending plus its dividends. ExxonMobil needs $70 per barrel. And then he says, do you understand in any way what this means to you plus the world? Your future, your effing future. And I totally get where he's at here. This has been a topic of research for me the last several days. I believe that we're on the next leg of finding out something here with oil and precious metals, specifically gold. Just to touch on this for a quick second here, because I'm going to do a whole segment on oil and what's happening here. But yesterday morning, oil was at $20.25 and then $20.10, the kind of area. Oil is the big backer to the U.S. dollar, making it the petrodollar. The petrodollar is the U.S. dollar that is used between countries to purchase oil. What's important to note about that is a lot of the countries that make oil overseas peg their own currency to the U.S. dollar because of the strength of oil purchasing. Okay, so the more oil goes down, not only does it hurt the U.S. dollar, but it hurts the other countries' dollars that are pegged to the U.S. dollar because their domestic goods drive down the price of those, hurting their economy greatly in their respective areas and homes. So there is a huge impact here to low price of oil and what it could mean, and we are going to dwell into that in the days to come. And the other thing I want to focus on too is gold, because we know gold in Europe, they have had two situations last year. Cryptopolis and I reported on the central bank gold agreement, which was lifted after a long period of time. So the central banks could actually buy and hold as much gold as they wanted. Number two, without restriction. And number two, the other thing is that here of lately, we just recently shared something here on the channel where we talked about the post from Michael Arrington from a friend of his in the precious metals that said there was no market clearing price currently on gold in the last several days. Well, that's pretty interesting, because when there's no market clearing price, it basically means that people are buying it up so quickly we can't tell not only who gets the purchase of that particular order, but what is the actual current price of it because of that scenario. So that maybe takes us to a place where we see the COMEX brought in to actually perform trading halts to actually sort out where the price of gold should actually be. Should that continue? Now, it can't happen if it's just happening one day. This is something that needs to become a trend and unsolvable without bringing in something like the COMEX rule onto the futures above the asset and then really sorting out where the price of gold should actually be. These two things, I think, are really massive indicators of and really two important areas that we want to pay attention to as we move forward with where the economy is in the current shutdown. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you like this content, please share this with people you know, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.